Modern.
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 We're prepping for a voyage.
Modern.
The force of an old-fashioned equals whiskey mass times bitters acceleration.
Why don't you make that a double?
Modern bar cart.
What's shaking, cocktail fans? Welcome to episode 161 of the Modern Bar Cart podcast. I'm your host, Modern Bar Cart CEO Eric Kozlik. Thanks for joining us for another interview episode where we track down the best and brightest minds in the spirits and cocktail world so that we can share their secrets with you. This time around, we have an incredible treat. Caroline Rosen, Executive Director of the Tales of the Cocktail Foundation, joins me to talk about how the biggest and most important cocktail conference in the country is forging ahead and offering digital seminars, wait for it, for free this year. This is huge for a whole slew of reasons, but before I spill all the tasty details, let's pause just for a moment so that you can make yourself a drink. This episode's featured cocktail is the Hurricane, a cocktail synonymous with both New Orleans and the French Quarter. Over the past 160 episodes or so, we've featured pretty much all of the classic cocktails from that kind of ubiquitous New Orleans canon, the Sazerac, the Vucare, the Ramos Gin Fizz, and more. So it just makes sense that we round things out here with the Hurricane. To make it, you'll need... You know what? I gotta say, this is the first cocktail for which I can't even begin to provide a recipe. If you're a regular listener, you know I always rail about the completely inconsistent drink recipes on the first page of Google that make me lose my faith in humanity, or at least in cocktail publications. But the Hurricane is on another level entirely. The common ingredients seem to be 2 ounces of dark rum, 2 ounces of light or white rum, some amount of passion fruit, either in syrup or puree format, which, by the way, are very different, and some sort of citrus juice, usually lemon or lime. Now, you might be wondering at this point why I'm bothering to give you a cocktail recipe as cloudy as the one I just spat out. Well, one reason is that some ungodly percentage of first-time visitors to New Orleans visit the birthplace of the Hurricane cocktail, Pat O'Brien's. And the history of this bar, coupled with the supposed origin story of the cocktail, are actually kinda compelling. Pat O'Brien is a gentleman who ran a speakeasy in the French Quarter during Prohibition, and according to legend, the password for this illicit bar was Storms Brewin', right? There's your Hurricane connection. Later on, when drinking was legal again, he purchased a sprawling residential building and converted it to a bar with an attractive courtyard and a dueling piano stage, which is still popular to this day. I've been there, and as you'd expect, it's pretty much all tourists and bachelorette parties. And yet, Pat O'Brien's is pretty much the undisputed home of the Hurricane cocktail. See, in the wake of Prohibition and during World War II, there was a glut of rum from the Caribbean because everyone was suddenly obsessed with all the stuff they couldn't get previously, like whiskey and imported stuff from Europe. And because the military efforts abroad had a lot of manufacturers of alcohol pivoting to help the war effort, well, you can see why some distributors out there wanted to really get rid of all that rum that they had coming in from down south. The following statement comes directly from the Pat O'Brien's website. Quote, "In the 1940s, many U.S. distilleries were used to manufacture necessities for wartime, and domestic liquor was scarce. However, rum coming up the Mississippi River from the Caribbean islands was plentiful. In order to buy a case of bourbon, for example, there was a strong incentive to purchase large quantities of rum. With General Manager George Oxner Jr. at the helm, the folks in the bar experimented with recipes, and eventually everyone agreed that passion fruit was a hit. A glass shaped like a hurricane lamp was the perfect vessel, and the Hurricane drink became New Orleans' favorite libation." End quote. This reminds me of the popular origin story of the Moscow Mule cocktail, however apocryphal, where you saw beverage entrepreneurs take certain plentiful and perhaps undervalued ingredients and, using some marketing magic, turn them into trends that delighted people. Admittedly, the most popular comment about the Hurricane cocktail is that it's so sweet you can't taste the booze. And at a point in history where people were beginning to turn more and more toward vodka cocktails, orange juice drinks, and pre-batched sour mixes, this was actually a feature, not a bug. Fast forward to today, you've got Pat O'Brien selling jugs and powdered packets of their hurricane mix, as well as a bunch of hackneyed DIY recipes on the internet that involve Hawaiian fruit punch. It's all slightly reminiscent of a frat party, especially when you consider the ingredients that frequently bastardize the formulation. Galliano, of Harvey Wallbanger fame, grenadine, possibly why the cocktail at Pat O'Brien's is red instead of orange, and other fruit juices like pineapple and orange juice. Now, one thing all these ingredients I just listed have in common is a good amount of sugar, which suggests that you need something, or perhaps multiple things, to sweeten your drink and take the edge off all that booze and acidity in the hurricane. So keep that in mind as you're seeking out the best cocktail recipe for you. This is the type of challenge I think today's home bartenders are uniquely suited to tackle because the ingredients should really be available, even the passion fruit puree or syrup, online or at your local grocery store, and you can really dial in the recipe to suit your personal palate, which is something you can't always get when you go to a bar in a different city. One last note. In terms of consistency, it's a bit ironic that the garnish for the hurricane cocktail is about the only thing that seems to carry over with complete accuracy from recipe to recipe. They all call for an orange wheel or half wheel and a maraschino cherry. In the spirit of this cocktail, it's normally a Firebird red artificial cherry, but I'd highly recommend subbing in a brandied cherry if you've got one. So, now that you're either inspired or confused by possibly the most popular cocktail in the French Quarter, let's turn our attention back to the interview. In this timely conversation with Caroline Rosen, Executive Director of the Tales of the Cocktail Foundation, some of the topics we discuss include the history of Tales of the Cocktail, from its humble origins as a walking tour soaked in history and booze to its current status at the cutting edge of international spirits and cocktail conferences. How Tales of the Cocktail actually operates, and believe me, it's complicated. There's educational seminars, pop-up events, bar takeovers, second-line parades, chance celebrity encounters in hotel lobbies, and a whole lot more besides. What Tales of the Cocktail has done to pivot in the wake of the COVID-19 coronavirus, including all the details about their free, let me say that again in case you missed it, free digital education and networking opportunities that will be announced on August 31st. We also cover a bunch of other topics, including the yearly Oscars of the cocktail world, aka the Spirited Awards, the uncommon economic impact the event has on the service industry sector of the Big Easy, the legendary mid-July aroma of Bourbon Street after a fresh rain, and much, much more. If you're interested in a live, recorded set of impressions from last year's in-person Tales of the Cocktail event, check out episode 108, which we'll link to in the show notes. It's not just industry folks like me, but a bunch of my friends who attended for the first time, so you get a lot of really genuine hot takes on the event. But for now, let's take advantage of the hour I got to spend chatting with the person who's responsible for orchestrating all of the TOTC festivities, both in this year's digital format and also when the event returns live and better than ever. Please enjoy this conversation with Tales of the Cocktail Executive Director, Caroline Rosen. Caroline, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about, particularly some of the amazing things that the Tales of the Cocktail team has done to kind of salvage this pandemic-stricken event for this year. But before we get into all that, how about you just give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm Caroline Rosen. I'm the president of Tales of the Cocktail Foundation. I surround myself with a lot of amazing people, and I just help keep things on track these days.
Yeah.
Clubs have all evolved so much. I think we do a little bit of everything, but no, I mean that's what my primary gig right now.
The very humble introduction, because obviously you were required to wear a lot of hats and you know, kind of call the shots between a lot of different people to make this giant event occur. But maybe we can get a better sense of exactly what you do, if you kind of walk our listeners through how you came to Tales of the Cocktail and maybe what this event is and what it means, because unless you've really been to one, it's a little bit hard to describe. So why don't you give it your best shot, and I will fill in some details from the 3 that I have personally attended.
Okay, perfect. Well, just a little bit about me and my passion is I'm originally from the South. I'm based here in New Orleans, Louisiana, and actually attended undergrad here. And growing up, New Orleans just always captivated me. I remember that when my husband and I first started dating here, we had is it Zagat? Is that how you say it? I can never.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
No one's judging me right now. This was before we had like the internet, really. We had it, but it was still, and we would go through and we'd look at different restaurants and bars that we would want to, like, that's how we celebrated. And we started collecting menus from these places. And that was such a huge part of our lives. And it's been a huge part of like entertaining and community growing up. And I had an opportunity after attending Tulane. I lived in Washington, D.C. for a little bit, and I was doing healthcare consulting. But right after that, I started working with a company called Mountain Valley Spring Water, which is the oldest bottled water in the United States. And I was really with it during its growth trajectory. And what I figured out when I was doing their marketing, so I started off in sales and I was like selling, and I worked my way up to be their chief marketing officer, was that if we really connected with bartenders and chefs, then I didn't have to do anything, right? Like if these were the people, I guess I was like an OG, like brand ambassador before those were really happening. I was just thinking about that, but it was really lovely. And that whole experience actually brought me to Tales. So I brought Mountain Valley as the first bottled water sponsor to Tales many, many moons ago. Had the opportunity to come back to New Orleans to run a chef's nonprofit here. And I founded Aaron Sanchez's scholarship fund. I've always loved nonprofits. Was definitely always loved New Orleans and just our culinary community here. So the Solomon family and Neil Bodenheimer came to me in January of 2018 with an opportunity to take over the helm of this new chapter of Tales. And so Tales has been around for 18 years. We're the largest spirits nonprofit in the world. And what it typically is it started off as just a cocktail walking tour. And today, well, in regular non-COVID times, we have 30,000 people come to New Orleans in the middle of July, where it's hotter than hell, but it's but it's really amazing. And one of the things that really made me passionate about doing this, because I'm going to be completely honest, I said no to the job 3 times. I was like, I do not want to do this. I'd left some like tough situations, and I knew I was walking into a tough situation. And what I loved about Tales was the opportunity and just the passion of the people. I mean, Tales is a week long. There are over 350 events that happen. There are over 90 seminars. We have a home base at the Royal Sonesta, but it's like there's satellites everywhere. It's not just like a food and wine festival where you go and you get a wristband and you're in this contained space. It really celebrates the city, and it celebrates the city of New Orleans during our toughest time of year typically, and that's the summertime. With all of these people coming in town, it has like an $8 million impact on our city. And when I was thinking about taking the job, I had friends that were bar owners and restaurant owners, and they were saying, Caroline, like, we can't make it throughout the year without Tales. It's so important to the city of New Orleans. And then the more I got to learn about the community, I was like, Tales is really important, not just to the city of New Orleans, but to our community nationally and globally. And so my whole focus has been to, kind of try to steady the cruise ship, which it takes a long time to turn a cruise ship around, and really bring some of those nonprofit themes to life. We started with our grants process that year and our education committees, our grants committees. And so that's what Tales is. That's kind of what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, as you were saying that, I was reminded of an exercise that I would do. I used to teach poetry workshops where students would at the University of Maryland we would come in, we'd workshop their poems, and at the end of the year, one of the exercises that I would always do with them is we would kind of gather around and we would come up with metaphors for what poems are, right? So like, there'd always be, a poem is an onion, a poem is a gift, a poem is a this or a that. And so like, as you say all these things, well, like I would love to see like bartenders and anybody who attends Tales do the same thing, because like, what is Tales? Well, Tales of the Cocktail is a giant party. It is an economic stimulus to the city of New Orleans. It is a premier educational opportunity for anybody who wants to buy a ticket, regardless of whether you are the beverage director for the biggest restaurant group in New York City, or you are just somebody who picked up Dave Wondrich's Imbibe last month and on a whim decided you had some time to go down to New Orleans, right? So there's so many ways to describe it, and it means so much to so many people. And I guess to give you my background on my attendance of Tales, my understanding of what Tales is and what it does, I attended for the first time, I want to say in 2016. I think I did 2016, 2017, and 2019.
Okay.
So that brings us back to last year. So I did 3 out of the last 4 years I've been in attendance. And it's been wonderful. I've been a part of tasting rooms where these brands get to set up tables, demonstrate their spirits, both straight and in cocktails. I've attended these amazing educational seminars, both kind of like on the theoretical side, but then also on the heavily tasting side of things, where you're really getting into the nitty gritty. One that I'm reminded of is the Apple seminar from last year, where we had all these Apple brandy experts from around the world come in, and we got to taste some phenomenal stuff, from Laird's Applejack to stuff that's made in France.
Hands down the coolest cat ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's difficult for me to, without going into a catalog, just a long list of things that I've seen and done at Tales, explain what Tales is. So hopefully our listeners will get a better and better sense as this interview wears on about what Tales is, because it really, it changes from year to year. Right. It really has a lot to do with the people who are in attendance. And as you say, one thing I do want to pull out of what you were mentioning before we move on here is the porousness of Tales of the Cocktail, in that we have this base, as you described, in the Royal Sonesta Hotel, which is A, heart of the French Quarter, B, beautiful, gorgeous, just exactly what you would imagine as like just peak French Quarterness in terms of luxury and aesthetics. And and yet we have all these satellite events. We have bar and restaurant takeovers going on all throughout Tales of the Cocktail. My good friends at Lion Rum did a takeover. Oh goodness, now I'm forgetting the restaurant. It's the beautiful, probably one of the most famous restaurants up near the Italian market there.
Brendan's last year? No, did they?
Goodness,
I can't.
Anyway, sorry. Well, I'll stick it in the show notes. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember it now, although I can picture it quite fully. So anyway, we've got this massive event that, as you said, brings this millions and millions of dollars into New Orleans at a time when they desperately need it, because let's all face it, it's kind of miserable to be in the French Quarter in the middle of July when it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity, and you can just see the stink wafting down Bourbon Street, right?
Literally.
Yeah. But nonetheless,
with that, right? Like there's something about like you just know it's coming, and it's like I always tell people, like my friends who like live on the West Coast, and their hair is always beautiful. I'm like, here's the deal: don't find everyone else is going through it, right? Like your hair is going to be frizzy, you're going to be sweating everywhere. You either embrace it or you don't. I just full on embrace it. I'm always in a caftan that's like big and loose, and I'm like, you just got to run with it.
Yeah, it's certainly something to plan for. If you go there the first time and you didn't do any advanced research, you might find yourself going on an impromptu wardrobe shop. So let's dig into like a little bit more of a structured way to think about Tales of the Cocktail, because there's a number of different types of events. They're kind of generally grouped. So can you give our listeners a sense of the types of events and seminars being a big part of that are offered so that we can understand how it's broken down and, assuming that people might be interested in attending in the future, what they might be most interested in.
Well, I think this year is a perfect year to attend because it's free and open to the public. So there's no excuse. You can sign up, you can come pop in and out. And so the next year, you can have boots on the ground here with us. But the way that you can think about it with Tails is first and foremost, we are here for education, obviously. It's education and community. And so our education is broken into 3 different buckets. And we really implemented this when we came in 2018 because it was so hard to explain. And so if we look at the cocktail community, we have culture, we have business, and then we have Beyond the Bar. And Beyond the Bar is not only an education stream, but it's also an activation. So starting in 2018, and Beyond the Bar means everything from sustainability to inclusivity. So all of our Beyond the Bar programming since we started, and it was new, and these are the tough topics that we're talking about right now. Like we're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement more. We're talking about diversity and inclusion. We're talking about sustainability, things that aren't typically thought of to be a part of the bartending profession. But as this profession has changed and as it has grown, we know that these are key components. And so with our Beyond the Bar, so our education or seminars that you can come in, you usually buy a ticket. Again, it's all free and open to the public this year. So then we have tasting rooms. So this is an opportunity, I always use, this is an opportunity for people that own, support brands from across the globe to really share it with the world. So like a big example is, Saint Germain made their big debut many years ago at Tails. So you're always looking for trends and those happen. So once you have the educational seminars, you have the tasting rooms also there. Beyond the Bar, which was going to be on site in the hotel this year, that is free morning runs, yoga, classes that are a little bit more hands-on. We've had closed door sessions with wonderful people like Kat Kinsman, who are really giving an opportunity for people to tell. So that's kind of like the hotel, what Tails is encompassing. And then from there, we have a schedule. And a schedule is still very important this year. But since we do have so many activities, what we try to do is we try to make sure that it's all spread out throughout the day. So starting in the morning when we kick off seminars, we'll also kick off a lot of our partner events. So this is an opportunity for partners and for bars to create experiences. So Bacardi, for example, will come in and do La Gran Familia, and they'll take over a space, and they'll have different events in their space, usually within walking distance, because since the hub is the Royal Sonesta. So you're literally walking around the French Quarter. You can look online in the schedule, and you can say, hey, Ryan Cheedy and Charlotte Voicey, they are at Brennan's right now doing teeny martinis. I want to go run over there real quick, and then I'll be back to see some seminars. So that happens throughout the week. As we transition to the evenings, we have spirited dining and drinking. So these are opportunities for brands to really collaborate with our local establishments to create experiences. These are usually like you can pay for a seat. Most of the things that we do are complimentary with our partners. And then at night, we have really fun, engaging night parties. And these are opportunities that are a little bit larger scale. You're looking at anywhere from 250 to 2,000 people that can be accommodated within those events. So you go from like flowing events throughout the day with education into dinner, dining, and then like kind of these fun like signature events. And typically what we do is like most people have a night of the week. So William Grant's on Wednesday, Bacardi's on Thursday, Diageo's on Friday. And you can kind of build that in, and then other people will slot in. A couple of other things that we do throughout the week is Dame Hall of Fame, which is where we honor women and people and other people that have really been instrumental to our industry. And we do that with a Friday lunch at our nose, which a Friday lunch is a very New Orleans thing. New Orleanians love taking a boozy Friday lunch, especially in the summertime when things are slower. And then we also have the Spirited Awards to wrap up the end of the week. So if you're not familiar with the Spirited Awards, if you're in the US, you can think this is like a James Beard specific for spirits award, or it's like the Grammys or the Oscars. It's global. It's really, really fun. If you're ever going into one of your favorite bars and you see a glass plate behind the bar, that's a Spirited Award. And I got to be honest, when I first came in, I was like, why is it a plate? Like, why is it a plate? And it was one of these things that, like, when someone new comes in, they're always like, we got to change. And everyone's like, just hold on that. And I was like, this is not the most pressing thing to fix. And after I've traveled and like seen it, it's not something that's going to change. It's beautiful. Why we have a plate, but we have a plate, and it's really fun. And this year I really wanted to get beignets for everyone, which is a very New Orleans like donut. I had scheduled to have beignets for everyone who wanted to eat beignets off their plate. But we'll have to wait for next year. Can't ship beignets.
Yeah, unfortunately not. And, for those of you listening, the Spirited Award is actually a nomination process. So if you felt really passionate, say about, I don't know, some sort of audio programming that deals with spirits and cocktails, I imagine there would be some place you could go to nominate. But anyway, we'll get into that, maybe on the show notes page.
You need to nominate yourself, damn it. I say this every year. But yes, anybody that's watching, we have an open call for Spirited Awards every year. And they're, I think, 27 or 29 different categories. It goes over podcasts, and, but the best journalism of the year, best bartender, best bar mentor. And I think we'll talk about this later, but we started last year with 2 amazing awards that I was really, really passionate about. And one of those is the Philanthropic Award. There are so many people in our community doing so many great things. And the other one was the Timeless Award. We're an old profession, but I think this moment of our history of craft cocktails has really been pretty recent. And we wanted an opportunity to really celebrate those bars that have been around for decades and decades before, and dive a little bit deeper into that. So
right, yeah. Again, like as we keep going into the details of what Tales is, it just seems to expand and expand in front of us. I know that when I sign up for my seminars at Tales of the Cocktail, it feels almost like choosing your courses for the next semester at college, because you're trying to slot them into your schedule in the correct way, to make sure that you have time to grab a bite to eat between them, or time to do anything else you might need to do. So yeah, it's incredibly exciting, and it's a really customizable experience. Now, when we went down in 2019, I went down with my 2 co-founders and best friends, Ethan and Russell, and another couple friends. There was a girlfriend involved as well. So it was a group of like 5 or 6 of us, and some of us are in the industry, some of us are just like purely casual home enthusiasts. And it was one of the things that was really fun was to compare everybody's experiences, because everybody had a completely different experience. Everybody opted into completely different activations. I was completely nerdy. I was like, okay, I got to get to my next class, guys. I got to go. While other people were like, I think I'm just going to go ahead and get in this other line here, see if I can get some oysters and single malt scotch in this tasting room over here. So in that respect, it is really customizable, and I love that about Tales. Yeah. So I think it's important to make that point, because especially for our listeners who've never attended, who might be looking forward to taking advantage of the new digital offerings that we can get into in a second here. I think if I had one piece of advice, probably what I would say is make it your own. It is so customizable, and especially in the digital format, it's customizable like in your PJs. So, I would say don't when you look at this stuff, don't look at it as there is some sort of template to follow. Look at it as follow your passion. Look at all the amazing things that are offered, knowing that you can only get to a little sliver of them, and make that sliver the best possible sliver.
I love this. We need to put you on like payroll. You need to go pitch this to everyone's like, how do you explain it? You just explained it perfectly. I love that. Can I steal that?
Sure, take it. It's yours. It's yours. So obviously, one thing we should mention is that Tales of the Cocktail is also a very international event. One of the things that I'm always blown away by is the conversations that are beaux had in multiple languages as I stroll through the lobby of the Royal Sonesta with my little cocktail to go, GEAUX, New Orleans spelling style. You'll walk by an Italian conversation in Italian, Spanish, any number of different languages. And in that respect, we have some severe limitations this year because based on the various reciprocated and unreciprocated travel bans between countries, the status of the COVID-19 coronavirus, we obviously can't get together in a big, hot, sweaty place where we're all in the same room. And so in that respect, you and the Tales of the Cocktail team have really kind of pivoted hard in the several months since this has happened. And so could you just walk us through what that pivot looked like and what this year's offerings are going to entail?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we hit on this year, as I keep preaching on this, is like that education and that community. Like so many times we hear people have attended Dave Wondert's seminar, but the best moment they had was when they were able to walk up to them after and say, "Hey, it's so nice to meet you. I have this question." But we also wanted it, as we go digital, like we knew that we had to we wanted to give flexibility, right? Like everyone is in a really different phase of where they are and what's happening in their lives. And so we really wanted to use that flexibility as well. So what we're going to do is you have an opportunity to sign up to join Digital Tales starting August 31st. And with that, you're going to get access to all of the seminars. So we have about 25 seminars that we have pre-recorded. So this, you can actually go in at your leisure and watch those conversations. But what we've done with that is we've also scheduled live Q&As. So do the research, do the homework. If you don't want to and you just want to see live Q&As, that's okay as well. You may not know what the hell's going on, but that's your journey. And then the other thing that we wanted to make sure that we were capturing is just this moment in history and how things are changing so quickly. So typically for a Tales seminar to get submitted, it's a process. It started last October. There are 3 different rounds. We had over 700, close to 1,000 people apply to have their seminars presented at Tales. We curate that down through our education committee. We have an education committee of 24 people from across the globe. So we have people in China, Dubai, Amsterdam, Spain, the US, Mexico, because we want to be, since it is so global, we want it to have that. We want to make sure that we're looking at it not just from our perspective. And what we found this year was, no one knew. So we scheduled live panels. And these live panels are going to have a lot to do with COVID relief. Regionally, it's going to have a lot to do with the Black Lives Matter movement and how that's affecting people individually, their communities, their companies. And it gives us a little bit of flexibility because, we have to plan and we have to get people in place. But every time you plan something, about 2 weeks later, something changes. And so this is our opportunity to make sure that we're bringing those voices in real time to the table. At the same time, we have our classic business culture beyond the bar, our 101s, which if anyone is an enthusiast, you have to check out our 101s. They're killer. They're hour-long basic courses on mezcal, on tequila, on, just a good refresher. So that's kind of how we've transitioned our seminars this year. The other cool thing that we've done, though, is we've also, let me back up real quick. Every single live seminar, every single live Q&A, every single thing that goes live that's outside of the partner booths is recorded, of course, with permission. And then it's also uploaded into that library. So if there are 2 chats happening at the same time and you miss it, you can always go back and rewatch it, which is really, really nice. And we haven't had that capability before. Mm-hmm. We're not going to have that global interaction, but what's really exciting is that we're going to have global conversations in their time zones, right? So it may be 2 a.m. here, but we've got a really interesting conversation happening in Australia. And again, if you don't want to get up at 2 a.m., you can watch it later, which is great.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so other than that, we have roundtables that are happening. These are groups of 16 that are really diving into specific specific things. And then other than that, we also have all of our partner activations. So usually you would bop around the French Quarter, but they have a digital, like a digital thing you can click on. So you would click on, William Grant, and you would be able to go in there and see all of the friendly brand ambassadors. You'll get to see who all's in there. You can video chat with them. They're doing different events. And we also have just regular events on our schedule. So like Brown-Forman is doing some really cool, everyone's doing all this really cool things. It's all on the schedule. And then the thing I'm most excited about, I'm not most excited, I'm excited about all of it, but we're also doing these mentorship office hours to life, where I would recommend if there's someone that you really want to chat with or that you've been dying to get in front of, we've asked a lot of different voices across the globe to donate at least 90 minutes of their time for 30-minute mentor office hour sessions. So this is that direct access that you're going to get to people all across the globe, which is pretty cool. And it's in a very, hopefully it's in a very easy format to figure it out. So yeah. That was a lot. I'm sorry. I didn't talk to you, but you can tell I'm excited.
Well, that's all super exciting. Obviously the flexibility is a huge thing here because, sometimes when you're in your little class sign up mode, you have to sit there and compare two things that you both really want. It's like, well, this is a really shiny apple and this is a really shiny orange. Why must I choose? Well, it's because you're only one person. You have this limitation of having one body and, needing that to be in one place at a given time. Otherwise you're, just a collection of random particles. So this allows you to kind of, have the whole buffet. This is like a Tales buffet. And despite the fact that we don't really have the option to take part in the wonderful live events. It seems like what you've tried to do, especially with the mentorship hours, is, kind of supplement the lack of live interaction with actually more one-on-one digital interaction opportunities. Is that somewhat right?
Absolutely. I think we still want, even if everyone can experience it, we want people to feel like they have that opportunity. And the cool thing is once you sign up, you can message people within the app or within the website. And we really want you to have that experience of walking down the hall at the Royal Sonesta and running into Cullen Appia or running into Jacob Breyer. We want that feeling. There's like an opening chat. It was so funny. We were doing a run through the other day and I was like, well, where's the lobby? And they were like, Caroline, it's virtual. There's not a lobby. And I was like, well, we have to have a chat room that's a lobby. We got to have some people, we got to keep them flowing through. So there's a digital chat room now that's like a lobby. So we've got some people that are going to be spaced out there throughout the day. And I think there are going to be some really cool surprises too. Our brand partners always, if you've ever been able to attend Tales in person, what they do is incredible. They always come up with the most creative, thoughtful ways to engage us. And I'm really excited to see how they do that digitally.
Yeah, it's funny how the lobby really is an interesting component to Tales. Last year, I got off my plane and turned around and there was Eric Anderson, the brand rep from William Grant & Sons, at Young Mr. Flanagan on Instagram. And we shared a cab, we shared a car into this city. And then I was able to bump into him a number of times, in the lobby. That's just a single example of, the types of amazing people that you meet. And then just the sheer casual nature of it. I think for people who are home enthusiasts who have perhaps a extensive library of cocktail books, you're just going to literally run into these authors, in their disheveled state, having just come out of the downpour that you just walked out of. So there's certainly a serendipitous aspect to it. And I know and certainly appreciate the fact that you put effort into replicating that in the digital space. So kudos on that. Now, one thing you were also alluding to just now is these brand activations. Usually they're in the form of tasting rooms and special events. In the past, there have been things like cement mixers full of daiquiris, I believe. I think I heard a story about maybe Wayne Curtis, I could be getting that wrong, shaking up Ramos Gin Fizzes in like a hardware store paint shaker machines.
At Mary Grace, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so the crazy shit happens. And so I was wondering if there was anything. I don't want you to have to spill the entire can of beans and ruin the entire magic of what's going to happen. I want to leave a little bit of anticipation for our listeners here, but are there any particularly cool, innovative ways that some of these brands or educators or authors have taken this digital directive and found cool ways to kind of make it feel really interesting?
I mean, I think I'm not quite ready to share. Everyone is at this moment where, everything's due in at the end of this week. And so we've talked about ideas, but nothing has finalized come in. I know that William Grant, who you were talking about, they're doing nothing is finalized yet, but they always have such an amazing showing. And I think they're up to some really cool things this year. But I mean, all of our partners are, and that's the other great thing is, our partners came back this year, and this is a year that I'm really, really appreciative of that, because it's a tough year for everyone, even our brand partners, and just to see them all coming back in is really special. So I can't give anything away yet, but I would highly recommend signing up on August 31st because it'll all be in by then, and you can go ahead and make sure that you plan around all those special moments. And I think they're going to be little surprises throughout as well.
Yeah. So to that end, we've got kind of a split audience here on the Modern Bar Cart podcast. We've got, on the one hand, a lot of bartenders and distillers and folks sort of very embedded in the industry who listen to our podcast every week. And then on the other hand, we have just these incredibly, actually really crazy talented home bartenders. And so I was wondering that, for those people who might be getting their first taste of Tales 2020 through this podcast, could you give them the best way to either sign up for an email list or follow a social media account, or so August 31st comes, how do I get an automatic notification on my phone that it's time to sign up?
Yeah, so if you go to talesofthecocktail.org, you can sign up for our email list, which is, we're going to be emailing everyone. It will also be on the front of our homepage, August 31st. You can follow us at Tales of the Cocktail with an underscore in between each of the words on Instagram, as well as Facebook. We have Twitter. We're not super active on Twitter, but you can also tweet if you'd like. But those are the ways that you can catch up with us.
Awesome. And so, and again, to reiterate, this is free, correct? Free. Free, very free. Okay.
And this is the first time we've ever done that. I mean, just so if you've never been to Tales, we always pay our presenters. We always have a stipend. We will always continue to do that, but we know that this is such a tough year, and majority of our audience are bartenders. And I just said there's no way in hell that we can charge anyone this year. So that is for everyone who's not a bartender. Thank your local bartender and enjoy and take a deep dive. And I think one thing that you could do is, we're putting out this year, we're calling it a playbill. And we're taking a look with a few of, amazing people in our spirits community that sit on our committees. And we're asking them to give some highlights of what they are going to do during Tales. So that's going to be an email coming out. So make sure to sign up for our email list. And we're also having our bookstore this year. So we work with a local bookstore that we have for over a decade. They're amazing here. I'm going to be completely honest. We're not taking a cent from them. And by doing that, they're able to offer free shipping, which is pretty cool. And they're going to have book conversations with the authors there. It's just going to be really cool. So take your time, dive in, listen to a couple of the seminars. There's so many great people in our community. And if you haven't had an opportunity, this is going to be a great opportunity to dig deep and get to meet some of these wonderful folks.
Well, that's good. We're going to put Bezos on notice and just let him know that James from Octavia Books is coming for him with that free shipping.
Yeah, we're going to let him know.
Yeah, for folks who've never been to Tales, there's usually a great setup called the Bitters and Bookstore, where they have a lot of cocktail bitters. Of course, our bitters have been featured there in the past, as well as just basically all the cocktail books. And not only all the cocktail books, you can actually meet some of the authors. A lot of authors will do half-hour or hour segments where they have like a live signing there. So in that respect, that's a really nice feature of Tales in person. I was able to able to corner Derek Brown into a podcast interview, and we live in the same city, and yet it took Tales of the Cocktail to make that happen. So a big fan of the bookstore as well.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, again, we're trying to keep these things alive, right? Like you've got to figure out like how to keep these moments going, and I think it's going to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It certainly sounds like it. So I guess the last detail that I'll ask, and maybe this isn't all completely set in stone yet, but we've got that the August 31st is the time that we're going to sign up for all these events, or start to sign up for the offerings that exist. Yeah. When will the actual content be released, and is there any sort of expiration on it, at least through the year of 2020?
It's through the year of 2020 at least. I'll be excited to see how it. I mean, we're in one of those places where I think that we could extend it if we'd like to. And when you sign up on the 31st, you're going to be able to go ahead and start watching some of that. So at that point, you're going to be able to really start digging in. Everything that we have recorded, and again, I think it's like 27 seminars that are pre-recorded. You're going to have access to those. So things will continue. I think the only thing that I would say is continue to check back up with the website. A lot of our partners, this is their first time doing a big digital something like this. So if they don't have everything in on time, then it will come in as it comes in. It'll all be there before we kick off in September. But just keep touching back. But I think it's going to be really great because I don't even get to see all the seminars. I mean, during Tales, I'm the one who's running around, and I'm super excited to be able to sit down with a stiff martini at the end of the day and be able to watch it and learn a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So 2 quick things I just want to touch on before we move on to the lightning round here. One is that you mentioned that Tales of the Cocktail has an app, and normally when it's an in-person event, I find this app absolutely indispensable. It's a great app. It allows you to sync up, kind of like with your calendar. You can really, like, if you want to make sure you're in a certain place at a certain time, you want to make sure you know exactly what room a given seminar is taking place in, so you can maybe scout it out ahead of time. It's a fantastic tool. Is there any changes with the app this year? Is it going to be as useful? What are your recommendations for our users?
I was just about to slack my team because I know it's not the same app. The person that we typically do the app through is a more live events focused app. Mm-hmm. I think it's all through the website this year. I'm like 90% sure. So sadly, you're going to have to hold on to that app for one more year, but it's all phone enabled, and it does like link directly to your calendar and so on and so forth. But I don't think it's a specific app that you download. But I'll make sure to ask that question because that's actually a great one, and I can't believe I haven't thought about that.
Well, regardless, it's a great app. So when Tales of the Cocktail does return bigger and better than ever, make sure you get the app. For those of you who get a taste this year and decide to go in for the full meal next year, certainly recommend the app. And then, Caroline, this has been great. I mean, I think what we've done is, we've kind of showed people what Tales has been in the past. We've kind of gone through some of the really intelligent pivots that you've done to really accommodate for the strange times that we're living in right now. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm super stoked because, like I said earlier, I'm the nerdy guy who just wants to take the classes, and now you're just giving them all to me for free. See? So yeah, I mean, I'm all in on this. I'm all in. So do you have anything that you want to share with us? Any concluding thoughts or remarks before we jump into the lightning round here?
No, I just, again, I would love for you all to come by and see what we're doing. We are, our whole motto is there's never a finish line. We're going to continue to work and make this better. Our hope is that this year we're able to learn a lot about this digital platform and even incorporate some things that we really like into that in-person gathering when we can do that again. And we hope that everyone is healthy and safe. And we're here for you. We're here for you. And we're just looking forward to a time when we can all be together in person again.
Absolutely. I think it's going to make the next time even sweeter.
Absolutely.
All right. That's a great note to wrap up on. Let's hit some of these lightning round questions, shall we?
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite cocktail? And if you don't have a favorite of all time, what's something you've more recently become obsessed with?
I am obsessed with a Cynar spritz. It's like an Aperol spritz, but like not as sweet, still delicious. It looks brown and interesting. I always feel cool when I order it because, it's not something you order every day. It's still low ABV. Cynar spritz, highly recommend.
Love that artichoke. I love that artichoke Amaro. Absolutely. If you were a cocktail ingredient, what would you be and why?
Ooh, I'd be a twist. I'd be that little Sprite, that little fresh little note that you put in. I don't think I'm for everyone, but I do think I make most things better. So that's what I would be.
Yeah, sort of kind of goes back to the role that you play. You're sort of you're the catalyst that takes all these people and gets them together and makes them work. So I think that personally, I'm a big martini twist guy. I don't know if I'd be able to do it without my beloved twist. So I love that answer.
Good.
If you could have a cocktail with anybody in the world, past or present, who would it be? Where would you go? What would you drink? Just kind of paint us a picture.
Yeah, so I also love caftans. And caftans are just big flowy dresses for people that don't know that. I try not to ever wear pants because I just don't like it. And so my great uncle was a man named William Spratling. And he lived here in the French Quarter with William Faulkner. He was an architecture professor at Tulane. He was bisexual. Our family kind of ousted him for a long time, but he ended up moving to Mexico City and creating these beautiful silver designs. And so everyone in my family is like, you're a little bit like that guy. I would love to meet him. I would love to be in Mexico City, and I would love to have Julia Child with us. I would like to be at pool hall. I would like to be day drinking. I love day drinking more than anything. I'd much rather drink during the day than at night because, how luxe is it to drink during the day? And it would be a really, really long meal with cocktail pairings across the board. And I just want to pick both their brains. Those are the two people I want to meet.
That's amazing. Big fan of Julia Child, and that sounds like an amazing time.
You come on.
I'm in. Sold. All right. What is a common or traditional cocktail ingredient that you've never tasted, and why?
I'm trying to think. Oh, I've never tried Malort.
Oh, interesting. Very good.
And again, one of my dearest friends loves it. Everyone, it's very polarizing, but I actually met the woman who is the ambassador for Malort last year. And I was like, I have to be honest. And she just run out of her bottle of Malort. And I was like, this might be for the best. What are your thoughts?
I've only had it a couple times. Yeah. It is, I'm a bitters guy. I like bitterness as a taste. So to me, I do enjoy the bracing qualities of it. But there was, I think about maybe a year and a half ago, there was a slight distribution disruption, and there was some uncertainty as to whether Malort would be distributed in DC in the future, and bartenders went nuts. They were not happy about that. So luckily the distribution relationship has been reconnected, and DC now has a line straight to Chicago again. But it was dicey there for a little while.
Yeah, I gotta try Malort. Gotta do that.
All right, wrapping up here. What's an unusual or controversial view or belief that you hold in the spirits and cocktail space?
So again, I'm not a bartender. I'm a philanthropist. I've owned 2 restaurants that both failed miserably in my lifetime. I love hospitality. I'm not great at running it though. And I'll never forget, I asked Wayne Curtis, we were talking about him earlier. Wayne lives here in New Orleans, friends before I took this post at Tales. And I said, I just want you to walk around, because I'd been so in the chef world for so long. I was like, I need you to walk around and introduce me to people. And we, Jeff Berry, who owns Latitude, and his wife Anine are just super dear friends. And we'd gone there, and I just trust them. I'm like, oh, something with rum. And we'd had, a shark attack, and we were finally on our third spot. And I was like, I just need like mother's milk to me. And listen, this is the most basic bitch thing in the world, but I still love a vodka soda. I still love it. And I ordered it, and Wayne looked at me and he was like, people watch what you order now. I was like, Wayne, I can't help it. I sometimes like a vodka soda. I like other things too, but I'll do a vodka soda every once in a while, and I'll also do an ice pick, which is an iced tea and vodka. I know.
Ooh.
I know. It's not cool at all, but it's me.
This might make you feel a little bit better. I recently had an interview with Elaine Duff, and her controversial view is that bars should carry like White Claws and vodka sodas. Not a ton, but like a selection of canned, canned cocktails and canned, vodka ands.
I think it'd be great. But again, it's not a popular view, but it's me.
But you know what? You're not alone, so you're in good company. Well, Caroline, this has been fantastic. I can't express how excited I am that Tales is not throwing up the white flag this year just because things are tough. I am super stoked for all the offerings, and especially for the flexibility to be able to kind of fill my plate, clean my plate, and then go back to the buffet for more. And I'm excited also, finally, that you've really put some consideration into bringing some of these intangible aspects of Tales of the Cocktail, the serendipity of the lobby, we'll call it, into the digital offering. So personally, just from me, thank you so much for what you've done. And thank you also for the opportunity to allow our listeners who might not otherwise be able to travel down to New Orleans to get a taste, so that maybe we can help loop them into that millions of dollars of economic impact next time we're able to flood into the city of New Orleans.
Absolutely. And thank you for coming and supporting. Thank you for covering it. And look forward to a time where we can have a cocktail together soon.
One more time with those digital addresses, website and social media, if you please.
Sure. Tales, and that's TALES of thecocktail.org. And then it's Tales of the Cocktail at Instagram and Tales of the Cocktail on Facebook.
Yep. Get those underscores on the Instagram, and on Facebook, you can just type it into the search bar. Of course, we'll have all the links to those social media handles and websites over at modernbarcart.com/podcast on the show notes page. And you know what? We'll also try to plan it into our social media calendar to send out a reminder on August 31st when the course offerings are live.
Very cool. I'd appreciate that. And thank you. And thanks to everyone who's tuning in. Hope to see y'all soon.
All right. Thanks for being on the podcast, Caroline. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, there's two big things you can do for us here at Modern Bar Cart. One would be to tell your friends and family if you think they'd enjoy listening to us talk about cocktails. And if they don't download podcasts, they can always stream our episodes on their desktop directly from the show notes page at modernbarcart.com. The other thing you can do to help would be to head on over to iTunes or wherever you download your podcasts and leave us a review. 5 stars are great, but we're more interested in your feedback. And the beauty is, the more reviews we have, the easier it will be for other folks out there to learn about our show. We're trying to start a cocktail revolution here, and by spreading the word, you're helping us fight the good fight. You can always reach us by emailing podcast@modernbarcart.com if you're looking for cocktail or bartending advice, or if you're a pro who would like to pull up a mic and be interviewed for all to hear. Also, definitely follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Modern Bar Cart for cocktail porn, recipes, and entertaining tips. And keep an eye out for new product releases and special offers, which are happening all the time. We love our listeners, and we really enjoy giving you exclusive discounts and sneak peeks at our latest and greatest cocktail projects. This episode may be over, but for you, the mixological fun and adventures are just beginning, so remember, folks, drink responsibly and experiment boldly. This episode was made possible with editing and production assistance by Samantha Reed. Digital Tales of the Cocktail Insights and Updates, courtesy of Caroline Rosen and the Tales of the Cocktail Foundation, and a little bit of interview magic by yours truly. This has been a Modern Bar Cart production, copyright 2020.